Part 47. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 461. Master Ma's palm fell hard on the mountain god's forehead. A powerful force burst out from Master Ma's palm. In an instant, the mountain god's originally condensed body instantly turned into dots of starlight, scattering in all directions. These rays of light are like stars falling from the sky, making people feel as if they are in a sea of stars, extremely dazzling. When those animals saw the death of the mountain god, they started to cry. These starlights hovered around the herd and lingered for a long time, as if they were bidding farewell to these animals. After a while, the stars shot straight into the sky, then bloomed in the sky like a firework, and finally merged into the mountain forest. Seeing this scene, I was filled with emotions. Mr. Ma looked a little lonely. He took off the urquatu from his waist and took a sip, then let out a long sigh. This is the duty of the mountain god. To be honest, I was also impressed by the fearless spirit of the mountain god. It seems that the world is not filled with false gods like the city god. It was at this time that the sky turned white. The first ray of sunshine in the morning penetrates the woods, like a pair of gentle hands, gently caressing the mountains and rivers of the world. We didn't dare to delay and hurried to Kipan Mountain. In order to thank us for helping his village solve its troubles, the old village chief actually found a carriage to take us to Kipan Mountain. I learned from Mr. Ma that Kipan Mountain is a very magical place. Stretching to the Hanye River in the south and Tiling in the north, Kipan Mountain belongs to the Hadaling remnants of the Chenbai mountain system. The scenery there is beautiful, including Wanjian Temple, Xiangyang Temple, Immortal Cave, and many other mythological places. The carriage galloped through the mountains and forests, and the scenery on the roadside kept changing. In the evening, we arrived at the Chenbai Mountains. It's exactly what Mr. Ma said here. The scenery is very beautiful, with the curling autumn wind, the solitary bird in the sunset, and the long autumn sky. But when we got here, we ran into trouble. We don't know the exact location of the ancient city of Goguryeo at all. Because the ancient city of Goguryeo is originally a legend. If it weren't for the actions of dragons and alchemists, we wouldn't be so sure of the existence of the ancient city of Goguryeo. Mr. Ma called out the little sparrow again. The first thing the little sparrow did when it landed on Mr. Ma's shoulder was to tilt its head to look at Mr. Ma. Mr. Ma took off the urquatu tied around his waist and asked, "Take a sip." The little sparrow angrily jumped on Mr. Ma's head and pecked hard. Mr. Ma screamed repeatedly. Seeing this scene, I couldn't help but smile. This little guy is really interesting. I don't know how many times stronger than the ancestor in my body. Mr. Ma persuaded the little sparrow to agree to investigate the situation. After the little sparrow flew away, we rested where we were. I looked at Mr. Ma and suddenly asked, "What do they want the mountain soul to do?" Mr. Ma shook his head and replied, "I don't know either, but they must have their purpose in doing that. What we have to do now is to rush to the ancient city of Goguryeo as soon as possible and find the dragon bones first." I nodded. That was all I could do now. The setting sun slowly sank into the mountainside, and darkness fell again. As soon as the sky became dark, the little sparrow flew back. It chirped in Mr. Ma's ears. Mr. Ma nodded and said, "I have some clues." He turned around, looked at the groom, and said, "We can walk the rest of the way by ourselves. You can go back first." The groom didn't say anything and drove the carriage away. And we also took advantage of the night to enter the Chenbai Mountains. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 462. The entire Chenbai mountain range consists of barren mountains and wild ridges except for scenic spots. The same is true for Kipan Mountain. Snow accumulation has already occurred at higher altitudes. After all, it is late autumn now, and winter comes earlier in the northeast than in other places. Our trip will go deep into Kipan Mountain. I don't know what kind of trouble I've encountered. Mr. Ma led the way. As he walked, he said, "We estimate that we will pass through Tianqi and then go deeper." Now I can only listen to Master Ma, because only he can find the true location of the ancient city of Goguryeo. Mr. Ma continued, "There has always been a rumor in Tianqi." I asked, "Is it the rumor about the water monster?" Mr. Ma shook his head and said, "This is just one of the rumors about Tianqi, and what I want to talk about is another one." I motioned Mr. Ma to continue. "It is said that someone saw an ancient city under Tianqi." Hearing this, I frowned and asked, "Master Ma, do you mean that the ancient city of Goguryeo is under Tianqi Lake?" Mr. Ma replied with some uncertainty, "Maybe it's there, maybe it's not there. If it's not there, we have to go deeper." I nodded and said nothing more. "Keep on your way." After walking for about half an hour, we arrived at Chenbai Mountain Tianqi. Tianqi in Chenbai Mountain has clear blue water, surrounded by mountains, with tall peaks and deep valleys. Looking down from a high place, the surface of the pool water is blue, the same color as the sea. The water in the depths of the pool is blue and green, as if a huge emerald is lying at the bottom of the water. In addition, the moonlight pouring down from the sky adds a touch of silvery white to it. Blue, emerald green, and silvery white, the three colors are mixed together, and they are beautiful. I suddenly discovered that there was indeed thick snow on the peaks around Tianqi. "Let's go to Tianqi first and have a look," Mr. Ma suggested. The three of us walked along the path towards Tianqi. The location we were just at didn't look that far away from Tianqi. But after walking up, we realized that the distance between the two was not what we thought. It was quiet all around, except for the rustling sound of the mountain wind blowing through the forest. This sound was particularly harsh in the darkness. We walked through the woods, and what we saw was a big tree in the sky. The area around the big tree was empty, without any vegetation, making the tree stand out from the crowd. At this moment, Yu Xian suddenly grabbed me. I looked at him with some confusion and asked, "What's wrong?" Yu Xian stretched out his hand, pointed to the tree, and asked with some uncertainty, "Look, are there two people sitting under the tree?" Hearing this sentence, I was slightly startled and looked in the direction pointed by Yu Xian. I don't know when it started, but there was a layer of misty white mist all around. Under the moonlight, it looks like a fairyland. Under the big tree, there seemed to be two figures. The two people seemed to be sitting cross-legged next to the big tree, as if drinking tea. Mr. Ma also noticed the two figures. He hesitated, frowned, and looked at the figure under the big tree. I could clearly see that Mr. Ma's brows were frowning more and more. He muttered to himself in disbelief, "No way, is the legend true? This shouldn't be the case." Mr. Ma's words aroused my interest, and I quickly asked, "Mr. Ma, what do you say is true?" Mr. Ma looked at the two figures and said, "According to legend, Taiguai Li and Lu Dongbin once played chess at Qipan Mountain." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 463. I also understand the legend told by Mr. Ma. Legend has it that in Tianqi in Chenbai Mountain, every time the lotus flowers are in full bloom, gods from all walks of life come to Tianqi to bathe in Tianqi, pick lotuses, and visit the mountains. When Taiguai Li and Lu Dongbin were about to leave, they saw a strange mountain like snow, shining like a stone, which pierced their eyes. The two immortals were curious, so they went to take a look, and then they found a huge stone plate. The two began to play chess. Later, this incident became widely spread, and Qipan Mountain got its name from it. I am very keenly aware of the loopholes in Mr. Ma's words. I asked, "Master Ma, if the legend is true, then Taiguai Li and Lu Dongbin can only play chess on Qipan Mountain, but this is Tianqi." After hearing what I said, Mr. Ma slapped his head, wondering why he didn't realize this. But the next moment, Mr. Ma seemed to have thought of something and shook his head. No, there is something strange in Tianke. Let's go take a look. The three of us cautiously approached the big tree. When the three of us came to the big tree, we were instantly dumbfounded. Those two figures disappeared out of thin air. This is impossible. What we just saw was very real. There must be two people sitting here. At this moment, my eyes were attracted by a huge stone. This huge stone was placed under the tree. The surface of the stone was smoothed and engraved with chessboard patterns. Seeing this stone plate, the three of us couldn't help but look at each other with shock in our eyes. Yu Xian couldn't help but exclaimed, "The legend is actually true. There are two smooth wooden stakes on both sides of the stone plate. Obviously, these two wooden stakes are where Tai Guili and Lu Dongbin sat when they played chess." I came to the stone plate and looked at the patterns on the stone plate. At this moment, out of the corner of my eye, I suddenly noticed that there seemed to be three chess pieces in the middle of the chessboard. I quickly moved my eyes and looked towards the middle of the chessboard. It didn't matter what I saw, it instantly made me break out in a cold sweat. Where are the three chess pieces? They are clearly three villains. And these three little people actually look exactly like us. At this time, Mr. Ma suddenly squatted down, touched the chessboard, and then clicked his tongue. Good guy, with such a big chessboard, how should the immortal play chess? I have no interest at all in Master Ma's teasing. Because I found that there was a villain on the chessboard who made the same action as Mr. Ma. Master Ma, stop studying the chessboard. Take a look at this. I pointed at the three villains and said. Mr. Ma stood up and looked in the direction I pointed. Yu Xian also looked over. When the two of them saw the three villains, they were instantly frozen in place. The two people exclaimed in unison at the same time, "What's going on?" After being surprised for a moment, we quickly calmed down. We looked around, and the fog around us became thicker and thicker, making it difficult to see the way we came. I looked at the chessboard and pondered for a moment, and a bold guess came to my mind. I said, "Tell me, does this chessboard represent the mountains and rivers here? With the sky and the earth as the board?" As soon as these words came out, Mr. Ma and Yu Xian were stunned, and then said, "It is very possible that this is the case." At this moment, I suddenly saw two more chess pieces suddenly appearing in the corner of the chessboard. Wrong. It should be said that he is a villain. I looked closely and saw that it was Alchemist and Xiaokui. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 464. The appearance of these two guys on the chessboard confirmed what I just thought. The entire chessboard represents heaven and earth. And when we are between heaven and earth, of course we are also on the chessboard. It's clear that we're stuck here. I looked at the alchemist and Xiaokui on the chessboard. The two of them were also coming towards our direction. Mr. Ma also discovered the two people on the chessboard. He pondered for a moment and said, "It seems that we are heading in the right direction. The entrance to the ancient city of Goguryeo is nearby. Let's leave here quickly. I always feel that something bad has happened." As soon as Mr. Ma finished speaking, a sudden change occurred. Three more chess pieces appeared out of thin air on the chessboard. The three chess pieces are two black pieces and one white piece. And these three chess pieces appear all around us. At the same time, there was a sudden deafening sound all around. Immediately afterwards, a strong wind hit, and the white mist in the forest began to flutter wildly, as if something huge appeared out of thin air. I looked around and was suddenly attracted by a huge black shadow not far away. In the thick white mist, there seemed to be a high wall. If you looked carefully, it looked like a city. Look where you are. Is that the ancient city of Goguryeo? Mr. Ma and Yu Xian were attracted by my words and looked in the direction I pointed. The two were stunned and looked at each other. Mr. Ma said, "No way, the ancient city of Goguryeo appeared so easily." Yu Xian looked around, and then his eyes stayed in one direction. He trembled, stretched out his hand and pointed forward and said in a somewhat unbelievable tone, "There's another one over there." Upon hearing this, I quickly looked in the direction Yu Xian was looking. As expected, a huge black shadow also appeared in front of him. Not just there. It's here too. Mr. Ma pointed in one direction and shouted in disbelief. As expected, the dark outline of a huge city also appeared in the direction Mr. Ma pointed. How is this going? An idea flashed in my head, and I quickly looked at the 3 chess pieces on the chessboard. These 3 chess pieces are in the east, south, and west directions. I looked around again, and the 3 cities also appeared in our east, south, and west directions. An immature idea emerged from my mind. I said to Mr. Ma and Yu Xian, "Do you think the 3 cities around us represent the 3 chess pieces on the chessboard? The black stones in Go represent night and the white stones represent day. 360 of the 361 chess pieces represent the 360 days in a year in the ancient calendar, and the other piece represents the center of the sky, around which the sun, moon, and stars all revolve. Of course, each chess piece also represents a city, the chessboard represents the land, and the lines between the chess pieces represent the official road. The entire Go is a strategic chess game between 2 countries competing for land." Thinking of this, I pointed to the Tianyuan position on the chessboard and said, "The entire chessboard is a huge magic circle, and the Tianyuan position is the entrance to the ancient city of Goguryeo. The chessboard corresponds to reality, and the black and white stones that suddenly appear are the formations set up by Lu Dongbin and Taiguai Li during the game." Mr. Ma was confused and asked, if this game of chess was really played by Lu Dongbin and Taiguai Li, why did the 2 immortals set up the formation? Could it be to protect the ancient city of Goguryeo? I nodded and replied, "That's probably the purpose." As soon as I finished speaking, there was a huge sound of the city gate being opened all around. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 465. Immediately afterwards, a powerful dark wind spread out from 3 directions, east, south, and west. Then, a sound of trumpets sounded throughout the heaven and earth. When I heard this voice, my expression changed drastically. "It's a Yin soldier." Tap tap tap. The sound of dull and powerful footsteps sounded all around. The 3 of us subconsciously leaned together. The thick white mist continued to billow, and one after another Yin soldiers wearing armor and holding weapons came out of the white mist. These Yin soldiers exude a chilling Yin energy. They all look different, but the expressions on their faces are extremely determined. This makes people wonder that they will overcome all obstacles in front of them. Just to fulfill your responsibilities. Snapped. There was a sudden crisp sound in the air. I followed the sound and saw another white stone appearing on the chessboard. The white stone falls exactly on the north side of the chessboard. At the same time, a city appeared again to our north. "Okay. It's over now." Mr. Ma couldn't help but complain. I rolled my eyes and said, "It's not you with a crow's mouth." Yin soldiers attacking from all directions surrounded us. Their siege was airtight and there was no loophole at all. Swish, swish, swish. These Yin soldiers raised their weapons and aimed them at the 3 of us. Under the night, the weapons shone with a bone-chilling coldness, and coupled with the cold expressions of the Yin soldiers, an invisible sense of oppression spread toward us. Mr. Ma was already ready. He said to me and Yu Xian, "We must find a way to get out of here, but first we must know the direction of Tianke." I nodded. Now we had lost our most basic sense of direction. If you want to know the direction of Tianke, you can only make a fuss on the chessboard. I looked at the chessboard, wondering if I could see it, and I was so shocked that I broke into a cold sweat. The originally empty chessboard was filled with black and white stones from some unknown time. In other words, countless cities have appeared around us. And there are countless evil soldiers in these cities. If you wander around like a headless fly, you will only lose your life. Not only us, the alchemist and Zyakui on the chessboard are also surrounded by black and white stones. This is an opportunity for us. An opportunity to enter the ancient city of Goguryeo in advance. At this moment, the Yin soldiers around him let out an intrusive roar. The next moment, all the Yin soldiers came out in full force and attacked us with a crushing force. Yu Xian closed his eyes and asked God to come up to him immediately. Mr. Ma also took up the sword skills, grabbed a handful of soybeans from his pocket, and sprinkled them on the ground. He muttered something, then he picked up the sword and pointed it at the soybean on the ground. Rise! Mr. Ma shouted loudly, and the small soybean burst into a dazzling light. The light faded, and dozens of soldiers with weapons appeared around us. Scattered beans become soldiers. I didn't expect Mr. Ma to be able to do this trick. These soldiers turned from soybeans rushed towards the surrounding Yin soldiers. But there is an essential difference in strength between the two. It can also be said that the Yin soldiers completely defeated these soldiers. I closed my left eye, cast 9 eyes heavenly domain, and then pinched the bloody thunder technique. I'm talking about stacking the 9 layers thunder technique to the 3rd layer, and then using the abilities of the heavenly domain to disperse them. Thunder pythons transformed from countless blood-red lightnings attacked the Yin soldiers. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 466. Wherever the bloody thunder and lightning passed, the Yin soldiers instantly turned into ashes. But annihilation and non-annihilation are the same. Because as long as one Yin soldier dies, the Yin soldiers behind him will take over. Yu Xian, Mr. Ma used all his methods. But it is still impossible to reduce the number of these evil soldiers, they will only fight more and more. This is not the way to go. I said to Mr. Ma and Yu Xian. Mr. Ma cursed and replied, I also know that this method won't work. Then why don't you think of a way? Otherwise we will all be killed by these underhanded soldiers. I looked at the chessboard and said to Mr. Ma and Yu Xian, this chessboard should use the stars, Qi Men Dun Xia, Yin, and Yang Bagua. Give me some time and I will find a safe path. Mr. Ma and Yu Xian agreed. Then he attacked those Yin soldiers. I looked at the chess pieces on the chessboard and fell into deep thought. If Su Tianxian were here, she would definitely be able to see the flaw in this game at a glance. But I can't. Forget it, I can only treat a dead horse as a live doctor. When my grandfather was still alive, he often played chess with the old men in the village. Sometimes Grandpa would do it alone. So, I know a little bit about playing chess. The black and white stones on the chessboard are very aggressive. Every step is fatal, leaving absolutely no escape route. But, I suddenly discovered that black and white would think twice before making every move. To put it simply, it means leaving yourself a way out. And only you know this retreat. Others can't see it. I took a deep breath and tried to put myself into the mindset of black and white. As my attention became more and more concentrated, I discovered the retreat of both sides at every move. Then these retreat routes are connected together to form the flaw in the entire chess game. I looked at a star on the chessboard. If you think of the star positions on the chessboard as stars in the sky, this star position is Ziwei. I was stunned for a moment. How could this game of chess be related to Ziweixing? At this moment, Mr. Ma's cursing voice suddenly came to my ears. Luciu! You little bastard! Have you done your research? If we don't solve it, we won't be able to handle it anymore. Holy crap! You little brat dare to bite me. I'll kill you. I looked at Mr. Ma and saw a sinister soldier lying behind Mr. Ma, opening his bloody mouth and biting Mr. Ma on the shoulder. Seeing this scene, I didn't dare to neglect it. I stretched out my index finger and pointed towards the Zyway star. When my index finger touched the chessboard, a beam of purple mist spread from my fingertips. Finally disappeared into the chessboard. After the purple mist dissipated, several chess pieces on the chessboard emitted a dazzling golden light. These golden lights connected together are the road to Tianke. I quickly determined the direction and wrote down the road. I turned around and rushed towards Mr. Ma and Yu Xian. Then he reached out and grabbed the two people's shoulders tightly. The two of them were startled by my sudden move. I didn't have time to explain to the two people. My expressions condensed, and the three of us disappeared in an instant. When he appeared again, he was already in front of a huge city. Then, I felt a wave of dizziness coming over me. I pointed to the city in front of me and said, "We enter through the main city gate, and then, leave through the east city gate." Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 467. Now there are cities of all sizes spread over thousands of miles. These cities are so close together that there is no other way to walk. We can only leave here by passing through the cities. After all, these cities are all transformed from chess pieces. Seeing that I was extremely weak, Mr. Ma directly carried me behind his back, pushed open the city gate and walked in. Using the Nine Eyes Heaven realm to transfer other people besides me is a huge drain on me. I'm afraid I can only use this ability without any scruples until my strength is further improved. The city was empty, except for the three of us. There was no living thing. It seems my guess was right. If you enter the wrong city, you will encounter Yin soldiers again. Mr. Ma carried me to the east gate. Yu Xian opened the gate and saw three more gates. "Which one should we go?" Mr. Ma asked. "The one on the left." Mr. Ma nodded and walked into the city again with me on his back. This city is also empty and there is no danger. After leaving the city, there are three more gates. Under my command, we successfully passed through 5 cities. But when choosing the 6th city, I fell into deep thought. Because I can't remember the location of the 6th chess piece clearly, I signaled Mr. Ma to put me down. I came to the South City Gate and looked at the huge city gate, and I fell into deep thought. In my mind, the 6th chess piece represents the South. I stretched out my hand to push the city gate open, but when my hand touched the city gate, I retracted it. No, that doesn't seem to be the case. I came to another city gate and wanted to push it open, but hesitated again. Mr. Ma and Yu Xian didn't rush me, because they knew that I needed to think about it carefully. In this way, I wasted a minute in front of these 3 city gates. But at this moment, the sound of neat and powerful footsteps came from the 3 city gates at the same time. I was slightly startled and felt a chill in my heart. I have to make a choice soon. Otherwise we will lose the chance to leave here. Wait a moment, the 3 city gates will open, and then countless Yin soldiers will swamp us. Mr. Ma was also anxious. He came to a city gate and said, "Don't think about it. That's it. If we delay it any longer, we won't be able to leave." Just when Mr. Ma was about to push open the city gate, I quickly stopped him. "It's not that. It's this." I pushed open the city gate in front of me, and at the same time, the other 2 city gates were also opened. Powerful yin qi spread out from the 2 city gates like a tide. "My mother!" Mr. Ma looked at the Yin soldiers all over the city and couldn't help shouting. I shouted at Mr. Ma and Yu Xian, "Let's go quickly." As soon as he finished speaking, all the Yin soldiers in the 2 cities were dispatched. Mr. Ma and Mr. Yu Xian ran wildly and passed me directly, leaving me behind. The corner of my mouth twitched slightly. These 2 guys are so unloyal. Looking at the Yin soldiers swarming towards me, I directly opened the Nine Eyes heavenly domain and disappeared in an instant. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Mr. Ma and Yuxian. Mr. Ma was slightly startled when he saw me suddenly appearing, and then he couldn't help shouting, "Why are you in front of us?" I ran forward crazily, cursing in my mouth, "You two are so unloyal and have left me behind. I can only find a way to escape on my own." Fortunately, I opened the city gate at the last second, otherwise, the 3 city gates would have turned into death gates, and we would have been greeted by a city full of sinister soldiers. Soon, I came to a city gate. I pushed open the city gate, and the scene in front of me made me stunned for a moment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 468. In front of me is the endless blue lake water. The white mist is still there, but it's not as thick as before. At this moment, the moonlight can also shine on the Tianke water surface through the mist. Mr. Ma and Yuxian also rushed over and were stunned when they saw the scene in front of them. Yuxian gasped and asked, "Did we escape from the magic circle?" I shook my head and replied, "Not yet. Only by successfully entering the ancient city of Goguryeo can we get out of trouble." As soon as we finished speaking, the dark soldiers behind us were almost behind us. Mr. Ma looked back and asked anxiously, "Since we are not out of trouble, where is the door?" I looked around. If I remember correctly, the city gate should be nearby. But why can't I see it? I looked at the blue and silvery lake under the moonlight, and a bold guess came to my mind. I pointed to the water and said, "The city gate is at the bottom of Tianke." As soon as these words came out, Master Ma and Yuxian were slightly startled, then looked at me suspiciously and asked, "Are you serious?" I looked back at the Yin soldiers who were about to approach us, and said anxiously, "It's too late." After that, I plunged into the Tianke water. When Master Ma and Yuxian saw this, they no longer hesitated and followed me into the Tianke water. I swam forward desperately. I originally thought that there would be sounds of falling water coming from behind. But I didn't hear it. I floated on the water and looked behind me. I saw those Yin soldiers standing neatly on the shore, staring at us with cold eyes. It seems that these underworld soldiers can only pursue them so far. Mr. Ma and Yuxian came to me and asked, "Where is the entrance to the ancient city of Goguryeo?" I pointed to the water and said, "It's probably under the water. Because the last glowing chess piece on the chessboard is at Tianke." I hesitated for a moment and said to the 2 people, "You guys wait for me here while I dive down to take a look." Yuxian said with some worry, "Otherwise, let's go together so that we can take care of you if anything happens." After hearing what Yuxian said, Mr. Ma curled his lips and said, "What can happen to him? If he wants to run away, none of us can catch up." What Mr. Ma said is correct. With Juyan Tianyu here, I can retreat as soon as possible. When Yuxian saw Mr. Ma saying this, he didn't insist anymore. I took a deep breath and was about to dive when Mr. Ma stopped me. "Boy, take this. If anything happens, crush it and I will know it immediately." Mr. Ma put a small soybean in my hand. I was slightly stunned. It seemed that although Mr. Ma's mouth was damaged, he was also very concerned about me. I nodded, took a deep breath again, and dived underwater. I had to find the entrance to the ancient city of Goguryeo as soon as possible. Otherwise, in this environment, we would be frozen to death by the cold Tianke water. The light in the water is not dim, because the water is clear and the moonlight can easily shine in. While swimming, I suddenly stopped. Because I seemed to have forgotten something. In the books I've read, there is a talisman that allows people to stay underwater for a long time without breathing. That is the water repellent charm. How could I have forgotten this one? I summoned the heavenly secret and drew the water avoiding talisman. The water repellent talisman took effect, and the feeling of tightness in the chest disappeared instantly. I continued to swim towards the bottom of Tianke. As I dived, the scene at the bottom of Tianke also appeared in front of me. When I saw the situation under Tianke clearly, my pupils couldn't help but tremble. Under the huge Tianke, there is an ancient village. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 469. The style of the village is ancient. The village is very large, spread out in every corner under Tianke. Because of the Nine Eyes Heaven realm, my vision has become extremely good. In addition, I have been active at night for a long time, so my eyes have long been accustomed to this environment. What is surprising is that the ancient village is still quite well preserved, and the trees in the village grow lush and vibrant under the water of the lake. I swam toward the bottom, stood upright, and looked around. The houses are arranged neatly, one after another. The bright moonlight fell from the sky, passed through the blue and clear Tianke water, and sprinkled all around. Now all I have to do is find the entrance to the ancient city of Goguryeo. However, where can we find such a big village? I carefully recalled the spot on the chessboard where the last piece glowed. The direction that the chess piece is pointing should be southeast. I swam toward the southeast. Before I swam far, an ancient well came into my sight. I came to the ancient well and looked inside. The ancient well is neither big nor small, just big enough for one person to pass through. I felt the strong yin energy in this ancient well. Just when I wanted to swim into the well to see what was going on, the surrounding light dimmed a little. I stopped what I was doing and looked around again. The underwater village was so quiet that I didn't notice anything unusual. If I had to say something, it was that the bright moonlight above my head was blocked by something. I lowered my head and looked towards the well. At this moment, the darkness became thicker and thicker. I was slightly startled. Why did this darkness seem to be approaching me? I stared at the darkness around me carefully, refusing to relax at all. Suddenly, a pale white streak emerged from the thick darkness around him. The pale white flashed away, and I didn't see clearly what it was. But it was this pale whiteness that made me realize that the darkness was approaching me. I forced myself to calm down in order to deal with any changes that might happen next. At this moment, I suddenly felt a chill on my neck, as if something was crawling up my neck. I turned around suddenly, and the scene in front of me made my scalp numb and cold sweat broke out. I saw countless black and thin messy threads approaching me. And one of the black threads had already wrapped around my neck. My expression condensed, and I stretched out my hand and directly cut off a bunch of threads. When I touched this bunch of black lines, my brain buzzed. This feeling is actually hair. I looked around, and the darkness around me was not really darkness. Rather, it is a shadow formed by countless strands of black hair intertwined together. This shadow blocked the bright moon in the sky, making me mistake it for darkness. The black hair around him was squirming wildly, and there were actually pale ghost hands inside. Besides, there are also ghost faces slowly peeking out from the hair. This is a water ghost. My expression condensed, and I raised my right hand, wanting to use the 9 layers thunder technique to deal with these guys, but I gave up the idea as soon as it came up. I am now at the bottom of Tianke. If I use the 9 heavenly thunder, I will hurt myself due to the conductive properties of water. What should I do now? Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 470. After thinking for a short time, I summoned the heavenly secret and cast the water talisman. The 5 elements are mutually reinforcing and restraining each other. Casting the water element talisman in the water will have unexpected effects. The golden secret of heaven emerged from my forehead. Talismans emerged from the blank heavenly secret box at a speed visible to the naked eye. I held the sword formula with my hand, pointed at the water-moving magic talisman, and then silently recited the secret to activate the water-moving magic talisman. The next moment, the water-moving talisman burst out with a beam of dazzling blue light. Immediately afterwards, the surrounding Tianka water began to churn violently, forming one small vortex after another. The vortex rotates very fast, and the strong suction force directly sucks the surrounding black hair into it. It was this manipulation that gave me the opportunity to escape. I looked back at Gujing. If I guessed correctly, this is the entrance to the ancient city of Goguryeo. Memorizing my position, I swam toward the gap between the vortexes. Breaking away from the black mass of hair and skull, I came to the village again. I was not in the mood to stay here any longer, so I swam straight towards the water. But at this moment, the water flow continued to surge again, and I looked towards the ancient village below me. It didn't matter, it made my scalp tingle instantly. When I came down here, the doors of the houses in the village were locked. But now it opened quietly, and countless small bubbles rose into the air and floated toward the surface of the water. In these ancient houses, ghostly faces poked out. Their bodies were white from the soak, their eyes were swollen from the soak, and most importantly, the expressions on their faces were ashen and numb. The sight before me made me a little scared. These guys have been around since the moment I hit the water and came to the village. Maybe they had been paying attention to what I was doing through the crack in the door. There were so many of these water ghosts, and their dead eyes stared at me closely. While I was stunned, these water ghosts actually swam towards me at extremely fast speeds. Many water ghosts gathered together, and the darkness was terrifying. I glanced at the water. Fortunately, I'm not too far away from the water surface, so it should be easy to transfer using Nine Eyes Sky Domain. Thinking of this, I no longer hesitated, instantly cast Nine Eyes Heavenly Domain, and then disappeared from the spot. By the time I emerged, I had my head above the water. Mr. Ma and Yu Xian were not far away, and I shouted loudly to the two of them. I have found the entrance to the ancient city, but there are water ghosts down there. We need to be careful. Master Ma and Yu Xian heard what I said and swam towards me quickly. I first applied water-repelling charms to the two of them, and then the three of us looked at each other and plunged directly into the water. The three of us didn't swim very far when we ran into those water ghosts head-on. If you want to reach the ancient well, you must deal with these water ghosts. I looked at Mr. Ma and made a comment. Mr. Ma was slightly startled, with a look of doubt on his face. I don't care whether Mr. Ma understands my eyes or not. My expression condensed and I looked at the water ghosts in front of me. The Nine Eyes Heaven realm unfolded again. This time, unlike the last time, I used the ability of my left eye. Because I don't want to waste too much time here. A protracted battle with these water ghosts is a naive choice. The entire Nine Eyes Heaven territory turned pitch black at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the light of the full moon in the sky cannot pass through. I stretched out my hand and held it in the void, and the static darkness suddenly came to life, rushing towards the water ghosts like a tide in the Nine Eyes Heaven.